All right. Episode 1. I won't do this often, but this is my first episode. The episode 1 is the crime to the Manson family. You always hear the crimes of the Manson families, but not the crime to the Manson family. Why do I say this? I'm going to break down what I've come across. I've believed for years that, except the premise of, say, a movie idea of like Helter Skelter, which was done by the prosecutor, and meaning he wrote the script and they followed it. This would be like, was it Marcia Clark writing a bit, or Lance Ito writing a bit about OJ, and they get to define what they decide is truth. So my bit was based on things I had seen, collected, which is very few. I didn't go in depth. Just the surface knowledge. Until I came across the search warrant for Spahn Ranch, mid-August 1969. This involved a search of the property because of stolen property. The stolen property was said to be a Volkswagen body that was stolen from a dune buggy shop, owned in part by two brothers. One was a LA cop, and then his brother. The affidavit written out consists of many things. For instance, there was a brand new Volkswagen ripped off from a VW dealer in the area, in the valley, and somebody then drove it up into the mountains north of Spahn Ranch, and they ended up going over a cliff, rolled. It was not stripped. It had just rolled, and that was the end of it. It was just abandoned then. Now, here's the bit. The sheriff or police department flew over that, saw the abandoned vehicle wrecked, and had immediately called the fire department chief, who then did a scouting bit, a fire walk, to go search for the area. Did they pick up fingerprints from it? I don't know. They don't talk about that in the affidavit. Convenient. They didn't really do much of an investigation. That stolen vehicle then was used as part of the Spahn Ranch raid. Why? Because Charlie Manson had been accused of stealing his own school bus. It came out later that it wasn't stolen, but don't give any things to the cops when they say he was accused of stealing. Maybe he went to jail for theft and other things, so he's a habitual. So some 3-4 miles north of Spahn Ranch, there was a Volkswagen stolen. It had to be Charlie Manson. Couldn't be anybody else. It could have been somebody who stole it that lived near where it was thieved from, and they were out joyriding, wrecked it, and then walked back home. That can't be. Can't be. And there couldn't be any fingerprints or anything else lifted off of it, but it had to be Charles Manson. there was another theft from the dune buggy shop owned by a cop and his brother. What was stolen? It was a used VW, which first came, they bought it through Charles Manson. Somebody wanted to sell Charles Manson their VW. They had the title. It said, "Here, buy this VW." He said, "No. Sell it to this dune buggy shop." So they did so. Then Charles Manson bought the engine out of that VW, and then they were accused of stealing the chassis of that VW and bringing it to Spawn Ranch and stripping it down. He paid more for, he paid more for the engine than the car would have cost. They probably tuned it up a bit and stuff, because he was going to put it into a dune buggy that he bought from the dune buggy shop owned by a cop. And the people said, "Well, we'll put it in for you." He said, "Oh no, I have." Charlie said, "I have my own mechanic." So he had a mechanic. He could have bought the whole car for less than he bought the motor. Taken it out, maybe they needed a new carburetor and stuff and some work done to it. He had the guy. Or he could have taken it in, had the stuff done, and then brought it back. But somehow he needed to go steal. He had to send out his little thieves to go get it. Okay. Then we have a police report where police drove into Spawn Ranch doing their regular routine. It's always routine. A routine check. And they met somebody out front of the buildings of the complex. And the gentleman joked that they probably had guns trained on the police now. So the police are sitting there talking to someone, and he says, "Yeah, there's most likely there's guns trained on you now." Meaning he just made a verbal threat to the police that they're going to get shot, because that's a verbal threat. And the police said, "That's nothing. That's no big deal. We get threatened all the time." Because after the one cop was killed, they call it the Onion Field murder, where a cop was shot north, like Bakersfield. He was grabbed from Hollywood. Two of them were grabbed from Hollywood area. One was killed in the Bakersfield in a onion field. Because after that, cops were just so much more easy about getting shot at. This is an affidavit. So the two cops we're fine with having you point guns at us. We're not going to do anything about it. Another comment was, "Well, what's going on there?" "Oh, they're shooting." "Oh, okay." Now, why do I lead up to all of these things? Because the affidavit is kind of a blueprint of what police can and cannot get away with. It was so far-fetched, the affidavit, that the judge who signed it should have been disbarred and gone to jail himself, because it was so shoddy and so horribly written, to where the police guy who owned the dune buggy shop said, "Yeah, I don't know, I don't have any of the numbers or anything, but I'll know if it's mine." And the fire department did a fire check. See, they're allowed to go on private property and walk around. And he said, I saw a new gas tank in a horse corral. And it was a Volkswagen. So you can tell the difference between, say, a 10-year-old gas tank for a Volkswagen, because they haven't changed styles. They're exactly the same. And if it has been sitting out there for 2 months, it probably hasn't started rusting yet. So how can you tell that it's from this one vehicle? It's like, you just have to trust us. So they get the search warrant. They have Spawn Ranch under surveillance from early August until they can get this bit done, and then they can get enough people to go in and do the raid. They also mention in there that there's a field telephone from one group of the where the houses, I guess, but they're not houses, it's a studio. So one area where there's a studio bit, and there's a phone that goes up to this other place up here, a field phone. And they make it as if these poor kids bought the field phones, ran the wire. It couldn't have been done by some Hollywood studio who said, we like to contact these people because they do stuff, you know, they bring down a wagon for a scene and for scenes, or they're up there, you know, it's the guys who are the riggers. They stay up here and do their stuff, or they're pyrotechnics, and so we need to talk to them, so we pick up the phone, the field phone. That couldn't have been installed by a movie studio saying, this is what's going to happen. Because all of the expenses, the wire, and it's tacked on, they just leave it. Like, no. So, this is the affidavit to get a search warrant. It's the most ridiculous affidavit you've ever read. Whoever wrote it wouldn't get any type of a degree in any university. It's that badly written. So, how does a judge sign off on it? I don't know. Corrupt. Doesn't matter. It's California. So now we have a police unit watching who's coming and going before the 9th of August. Do they ever mention that at, say, 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, on the night of the 9th or 10th or 11th or whenever, that a car leaves and then comes back, say, at 2 o'clock in the morning? For some reason, there is none of that. Because that would confirm, maybe, that people left twice, you know, over 2 nights. At the same time that they say that Charlie sent people, or Charlie went with people. But none of that. Because then a few days later, they come in on a raid. Lots of deputies. They find bikers. They find a whole crew of people. They always talk about Charlie Manson having a lot of women. Oh, there was a lot of women. You know what? We need to go in there and look into the Playboy Mansion. That Hugh Hefner, he's got a lot of women. Or what's the other one? Larry Flint. Larry Flint's got a lot of women. He's got a, you know. Does that sound reasonable? So, why is it reasonable? Charlie, oh well, Charlie is different. Okay. Why is Charlie different? Well, he just got out of jail in 1967. He bought a bus. Well, he stayed around San Francisco for a little while. Pretty much like a safe house, I guess. But he is then known to distribute LSD. Now, who was making LSD? Who was spearheading the LSD movement? The name you can't say. So here he is making money selling LSD, and he's got the permission. He's got a letter of marque. He knows he's given the contact to a distributor. He gets fronted. He then goes around and is selling LSD and now that area is saturated. There's too much. So he goes over to Oakland, try to open up some new market area. And he meets a gal, a librarian. He stays with her for a while. He's still selling stuff around. And then they go on the road. He buys a 10, 12, 14-year-old bus, probably a smaller one, a 30-passenger bit. He and his gal, then he paints it black and goes on the road. Doing what? He's got to pay the bills, so he's getting a whole boatload of LSD and then driving around. He can't distribute. He can't make enough money selling it, and he'll be targeted. So, who does he come up with? The best salespeople in the world, women. Women are the best salespeople because they like to lie, and they can be that people trust them. They're able to act, and so they're out making him money. They're making money. They're runaways or whatever. They've run away from home. They have no income. They find Charlie. Charlie says, stay with me, and we're going to travel from this beach area, this small town, and go all the way up to Washington State, over to Nevada, then down to LA. So by the summer of, by mid-68, Charlie's in the LA area. What does he do? He's hanging around the beach, selling LSD. Traveling back up when he needs, coming back down. So now what happens? Here's my theory. Here's where I go. What I've been saying is the pathway. However everybody says this is the pathway. And then they say the pathway, he moves to Spawn Ranch. And then it's ... afterwards. For the next year, it's ... My argument is, so he's at the beach. He's got all of these fine young ladies. But he also meets a guy or people who have done film industry stuff or wanting to break in the industry. And so they've graduated from their film schools. They may have wives, they may have girlfriends. It may be one, it may be several. And they're like, you know what we've done? He's like, Charlie's like, oh, so you're trying to get in the movies, huh? Yeah, have you made any? Well, and he goes, well, we've been making pornographic movies. Charlie's like, stag films. And he's like, yeah, but it's now updated. Charlie knows about stag films. He's like, yeah, but it's now updated. The guy's like, what do you mean? Well, we'll even, it's not the old, there's kind of two things, the old bag or the sleazy biker chick. He's like, we get younger, hotter chicks now, and younger guys who's willing to do it. Remember, it's getting to be the summer of love. And Charlie's like, well, I'm fascinated about this. And he's like, yeah, we've gone up to, I've done one bit at Spawn Ranch. Spawn Oh, it's an old movie studio. Okay. And the guy is pretty lenient. Old guy, he's blind. He doesn't know we're making movies like he's sitting in his house. He can't leave too much. So we can do whatever we want. We rent the studio and make porns. And I've made, we made a few porns at Spawn Ranch. We rented the place for 2 days and made several movies. And so I made a little bit, but it's because the guy filming goes, it's the producer, it's the director, all of that. They're the ones who make money. I'm just a cameraman. Charlie's got a whole bunch of women. Charlie can get more women. Why? Because he sends out the women to get more women. And there's more wannabe movie people getting off the bus, getting off that Greyhound bus. I'm in Hollywood, I'm gonna make it. And next thing you know, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have a place to stay. I'm poor. I'm hungry. And Charlie's girls are like, come with me. So Charlie rents Spawn Ranch Studio. He doesn't stay there for free. What? Just so the one guy can have favors? No. He's actually renting the whole studio. The guy's like, wait, you're gonna rent it for a month at a time? Yep. What kind of deal will you give me? Because he's got a whole bunch of people. He can't be on the beach all the time. He's got too many people. He's got to have his Playboy mansion. So he's making movies. He's selling drugs. He's able to buy dune buggies that are quite expensive. He's got biker guys coming to help make movies, to help do things. Yeah, I'm a mechanic, and I got a dick. And I don't mind screwing that sleazy chick. Yeah, I'll make a movie with you. I'll make a movie, sure. And I'll fix up your sand buggy, your sand rail too. Dune buggy. Yeah, I'll do both. And then on my way back to, such and such, Yuma or Phoenix or Tucson or Albuquerque, then I'll take a whole bunch of LSD with me and then go make money. Can that be done? Can that be a story? Can that be the narrative? Why not? Why isn't that the narrative? Who told you that the narrative had to be the ... From the affidavit that the police put up, it's so crap that mine's way more plausible. Why? Because when the girls say, yeah, Charlie would direct and say, have sex with so-and-so and do this and do that. Well, he was a director. You can't say he was making porns because that takes down the whole argument of, well, Charlie just had so much control over us, he could just say, go have sex with each other. Yeah, he's directing a porn movie. Do you think they would want Charlie being known as a porn director? That he was producing porns? He was also selling drugs? He was doing whatever he wanted. He was free. He was actually renting Spawn Ranch? Does that change any of the argument about things? What I brought up, does that change anything? Yes or no? That he was directing porns. Of course he could get people to, you have sex, you do this. Yeah, he is. Okay? It's number one thesis theory. It's way better than the ... that everybody else comes up with because it's really nothing. They have nothing to describe what happened between the summer of '68 and the summer of '69. They just put ... I'm filling it in. I'm saying, yeah, the girls didn't go down and steal stuff. They went down to the beach to pick up young studs. When they were at the Beach Boys' house, Wilson is out traveling, doing concerts with the Beach Boys, and they're at his residence making porn movies. So when you hear, well, they racked up a whole bunch of money in such and such. No, it was he had a, most likely he had a character who was a Kato Kalin staying in the pool house, being the caretaker. Or one of Charlie Manson's people that was working with the girls was the caretaker. Wilson comes home from being with the Beach Boys for, 4 weeks on their East Coast tour, and he comes back. There's women galore. There's cameras and lighting, and there's a couple. They're all in a bedroom, and she's getting worked over by two biker dudes. And he walks in, and he's like, "Hey, Kato, what's going on?" He's like, "Oh yeah, man, this is my friend Charlie. He's making movies." What? Wait, what are you here for? He's like, "Why'd you let him in?" He's like, "I asked you. You said, yeah, you liked hanging out with him." Because they met just a little bit before he went on his tour. See, now what? And he's like, "Oh, man." And Charlie's like, "You want some money? How about this? How about that?" The guy's like, "No, I don't need your money." Charlie's like, "Yeah, but you have this great place. You have this great mansion. I can film over here. I can film in all of these rooms." And he's like, "Well, I'll watch you for a bit." Because he's tired. He's like, "Yeah, I'll watch you. I'll let you hang out for a bit." He's a he's a musician. He's used to kind of the alternative lifestyle. And he's like, "Yeah, stay around for a little bit. When you get it, but when I say go, you got to go. Don't steal anything." Well, in houses like that, it's really hard to steal stuff because any real valuable thing is locked out. So he's just making movies there. Now what? Well, he's also making movies at apartments. Oh, he's hooking up. There's somebody at the beach. Yeah. I got an apartment over here on Sobolova. Oh, really? And so then they do a shoot over there at the apartment. He's got all the equipment. See, Charlie has the money to buy the equipment. If he's got enough money to buy some dune buggies that were quite expensive, he's got the Super 8, well, that's maybe even like Super 16 video equipment. And they add in the dumb soundtrack of later on. So it's not very complicated. So think about how those girls, the Manson girls, acted. Don't they feel like they're acting? Don't they feel like they're role playing? Just watch the old footage. They're skipping along, they're acting in a certain manner that it's their role playing, they're acting, they're doing their little bit. Does that change anything? Okay. Now let's get to Sharon Tate and her crew. Where's Roman Polanski? Roman Polanski's in London, early August 1969. Roman Polanski is going to make a movie, which he then ultimately doesn't make. So why is he there? He's getting away from Sharon Tate. Why? Why would he get away? Why would he leave Sharon Tate? Be away from her. She's pregnant. Is it Roman Polanski's child? We know it's her husband, but is it his child? Dare not question that? Why not? Why can't you question that it wasn't Roman Polanski's baby? And you're like, well, whose baby was it then? I came across the photos that were in the camera that they shot. Sharon Tate and her crew shot by the pool. She's in her bathing suit. She's got her huge belly. These are the last photos of Sharon Tate and the crew before they're killed. What is her old boyfriend doing? Who is he's doing hair salon stuff? He's coming up with a new look of hair styling, using blow dryers to. He's what Ted Dancing thought as a good hair cutter. Blow it up and fluffy, and he set if his ideas set the 80s poofy hairdo for all those boy bands, all those guys running around like Poison and stuff, and all that hair. That's his idea. That's what he liked, to make guys look like homos. So he's in the photos with Sharon Tate. Go look up those photos. You judge. You be the character. If that was my old girlfriend and we had a good relationship and she was pregnant and her husband was out of town, I would never put on camera what he did on camera. That is so weird and spooky. A brother wouldn't do that to his sister. An old boyfriend wouldn't do that to his old girlfriend who has somebody else's baby, who is married. Only the guy that has that baby in that oven, he does that. Otherwise, it's super rude, and the woman wouldn't allow it. The woman be like, no, you're not. That's not your privilege to act this way to me. That's not your baby. That's my husband's baby. You can stand next to me, but you're not doing that. He was doing all the things like, that's my baby. How about if Roman Polanski then got wind that, because he would know. He'd be like, that's not my baby. I wasn't screwing you over this time period for you to get pregnant. We know this guy was. Why did he know her old boyfriend was screwing her? It was right out in the open. Imagine the movie Eyes Wide Shut. The warlock, or the guy who's running the witchcraft ceremony, is out there. That's Roman Polanski. He's directing this Eyes Wide Shut event. Who's standing in the middle as the kind of like the sacrifice, the woman's sacrifice? Sharon Tate, the beautiful Sharon Tate. And he's going through this ceremonial stuff, just like Eyes Wide Shut. And what happens to the girls? They go and get nailed. Roman Polanski can't do that because he's in charge. He's got his costume on. He's got his mask on. Who's going to screw Sharon Tate during this religious bit? Because it's more like a religion. Who gets to put his wang in her? She says, there's one person I'll allow to bang me in this little ceremony thing. That's my old boyfriend. Roman Polanski says, okay. A few months later, I'm pregnant. She goes, I'm pregnant. He's like, I haven't been doing it with you. You got pregnant from your old boyfriend? Get rid of that baby. She says, no, I'm not getting rid of this baby. Roman Polanski's like, yes, you are. No, I'm not going to do it. You can't do anything about it. And he was like, well, I'm flying off to London soon. Good luck. I'll call you. I'll call you just before I get on the plane to come back. Which, that's what he does. He's on the airplane when she dies. See, he's got to be accounted for. He's got to be at the right time coming back. You're going to hear that he was in London. No, he was on a plane traveling. He was catching that early morning plane, so he was seen at the airport. He was seen with his passport. It's him. Timing. 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 So police were watching Spahn Ranch. They got the affidavit. They're just waiting for the judge to sign it. They're watching Spahn Ranch 24/7 before the tape event. So why wouldn't they say, well, at 10:30 there was a car that left. Returned at 2:30 in the morning. The next night, a car left at 10 o'clock at night. It returned at 2 o'clock in the morning. Wouldn't that be the most damning evidence of all? That would be, if I was a prosecutor, I would say, we have police saying that they saw a car leave Spahn Ranch and return. And then next night, a car leaving the same. Okay? If cops are going to use, yeah, this guy ran away from us, he didn't stop at that stop sign. Yeah, he just killed someone, but we're going to log down. He didn't stop at the stop sign. He ran the red light. He didn't use a turn signal. They micro everything. Not just the murders. The murders can take the guy and have a death sentence. They're going to put, he was speeding. He went through a school zone. He didn't stop at a stop sign. He didn't yield. He almost hit a pedestrian. All the way down. So why wouldn't the prosecutor say, they were under surveillance. Here, I'm rewinding this. There's a car that left at 10:30. 11 o'clock, 10:45 or whatever, on the night. And then came back at 2 o'clock in the morning. Or 3 o'clock. Same thing the next night. But it's not there. Why? Because there's no car that left. That's why they can't say they saw it. Because nothing happened. See, does that matter? Does that change the story? See, does that change the story? Now let's go on to the idea of the trial idea. For me, there's reality, and there's the trial story, Vincent's story, the prosecutor. Pull up, even though they got to drive around canyons, they find it easy. Supposedly, Tex Watson went there one time. I'll throw your butt. I'll take you to there, and then say, okay, from now get there again at nighttime. Let's see if you can find it. Let's see if you can find it. Go down Laurel Canyon, okay, and then go right up, hit the street. Not a problem. Oh, I didn't miss the road. I didn't miss that turnoff. I knew exactly where to go. Now what happens? Tex Watson knows to cut the phone wires. Because he is so brilliant. Does that. He and the girls, two girls, climb over a wall. It's about a 5.5-foot wall or so. Who do they encounter? A guy in a car, young guy. He caps him. They push the car up. Then Tex Watson climbs through the window and has to go open the door for the girls. But they just climbed over a wall. Why didn't they climb through the window? No. Who's supposedly in the living room? There's a gentleman on the couch in the living room. Abigail's Folger, the Folger fortune, which was killed that night. Both of them were killed. She was in a bedroom. He was on the couch. Sharon Tate was there and her old boyfriend. And Cato Kalin in the pool house, the caretaker. The only one who lived. The guy that was killed right off the bat, he was 18 years old, so was the guy Cato Kalin staying in the pool house. Why would he just cap the guy right off the bat? Why wouldn't he say, no, you're coming along with me? And what was this all about? Charlie was offended that a guy who was a record executive, or record producer, okay, worked, I think it was Capitol Record or whatever. It doesn't matter what the names are. He offended Charlie, and Charlie's gonna now get back. Charlie knows, Charlie was told, no, he's moved away a long time ago. It's me, Sharon Tate, and my famous husband, because she did Valley of the Dolls. She was known. I'm here along with my husband, the famous director. And Charlie's like, I'm not going to believe you. No, this record guy is still here. I'm after him. Make it painful for him. So why would they cap the guy in the car right off the bat? Murdered him right off the bat without any hesitation. Usually someone who is going to do a novice, he'll stop, get him out of the car. Tex Watson had a rope. Well, he would tie him up with a rope, stuff something, pull his shirt up and stuff it in his mouth and tie him up. He had a rope he brought. Not a rope like from Spawn Ranch, but a nice, new, clean rope. Look at the photos of the death. See, this is what internet now brings us. The evidence, the facts. We don't get it. We don't get the facts from the movie Helter Skelter from the mid-70s. No, that's the story of what the trial idea was. So that's who wrote Helter Skelter. It was Vincent, the prosecutor. He's going to now define, because everybody's like, what happened? We don't know. They're reading stuff. They're not sure. He's going to clear it up for you. Does he bring up the photos that were shot, some 12 hours before? Where this guy's like, look at Sharon Tate's belly. Ooh, baby. No. Not at all. Why wouldn't he? I would. I'd say, see, look how lovely she is. They may just show one shot of her in the bathing suit pregnant. They don't show her old boyfriend holding on, showing like, ooh, and being all very friendly to her. They don't show that because that changes your opinion. Why is that guy doing that? That doesn't make sense. Because all it takes is that little spark in the back of the head going, that looks odd. Well, they can't let it look odd. They have to let her be standing there sideways so she shows that she's pregnant, and this lovely gal, this lovely model is now that baby cut out of her. From a guy who, young, and he's now super violent at the drop of a hat, along with these two gals who are also violent at the drop of a hat. You know how hard it is to get someone to immediately just go, oh, because Charlie said so, pop, 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 pop. And girls straddling over her body, stabbing dozens of times, just, oh, well, Charlie said so, I have to do it. I can't question Charlie. He tells me to have sex with people. Do these things change anything? The rope around only Sharon Tate and her old boyfriend. They knew they would find him there because he knew Roman Polanski, her husband, was coming home, and he wouldn't see her for a long time. He still loved her. Still adored her. Still. That was his girl. It wasn't Roman Polanski's girl. It was his girl. Or at least he thought so. So now, what? What's written above the two? Death to pigs. Plural. Two. Two laying there. Connected by a rope around their neck. Together. It's very symbolistic. There's lots of symbols going on. Don't miss them. Why pigs? Well, what does Vincent say? Oh, that referred to cops. No, it didn't. Never referred to cops. Not until after 1970 did pigs refer to cops. Only after. And it was, you know, you get that B movie where only, say, 20,000 people go to the movie theater to watch it. That has the bit, oh, there's the pigs, and they're talking about cops. And then it works up. Then it's one TV show that's, you know, late night show, something, you know, the such and such deaths, you know. And then it's pigs. And then it's mainstream Hollywood, big movies. Then it's pigs, pigs, pigs. Then everybody is saying pigs. Now it's just part of, you don't question it. Before then, pigs meant whore. That was your whore. So these are death to whores, plural. Death to whores. Death to these whores. Because Roman Polanski is like, that's who she is. She's a whore. That's who he is. He's a whore. He impregnated my wife. He knew better than that. This was a religious ceremony. Because after, see, you can find these things. After a few weeks, there were the media coming out saying that they were, they toned it down a bit. They didn't say it was because there was no Eyes Wide Shut then. They didn't say it was this Satanist, they just called them swingers. And Roman came out and said, we weren't swingers. Yeah, because that was a religious ceremony. It's like, he couldn't say they were swingers. They weren't. She wasn't being shared around. It was a very religious ceremony to him. She was the sacrifice idea, that beautiful gal standing in Eyes Wide Shut, that's her standing out there. That's why he married her, because she had this certain charm that he could invoke all of these worship ceremony bit. So he comes out and says, no, we weren't swingers. She was a good girl and stuff. Eyes Wide Shut. Of course. Death to pigs. Whores. They cut the baby out. Or Tex Watson says he cuts the baby out. Cuts the baby out, takes the baby. It's a little baby boy, 8.5 months mature. He throws it by the door. And what's written above the door? pig. You can see the big pile of blood by that door. They call it the front door, but I think it was more of the side door. It really doesn't look like a front door. But let's just call it the front door. Wherever that door is, because it opened out. It didn't open in, it opened out. They plopped that baby right there and wrote pig above it. Whore. See, they don't tell you where the baby was deposited. They may, you might have to search really hard for it, but they don't tell you where the baby went. The baby was plopped there by the front door, and pig wrote above it. For a reason. Because that's the pig that came from the other two whores inside. This was all the messages were there. That it was a hit team. Hired by someone who thought she was a whore and thought they were whores and thought that baby was a whore or a product of a whore in a whore relationship. Does that change anything? Abigail Folger. She's in her bedroom. So now it's supposedly one guy, two girls are able to handle two guys and two girls. They start stabbing. Abigail Folger Bolts and her boyfriend Bolts. The two girls then follow, and so does Tex Watson. He attacks the guy. They attack the girl and stab the crap out of her. Kato Kalin is in his house, in his pool house. He hears stuff. He hears the door handle rattle. And then he hears her scream. He's then arrested. He's like, I don't know anything. Of course you don't. Because who's running the operation? I would say if you look at the police department, if there was a Southern gentleman who was a police detective or probably a detective, narcotics, vice, and he was from the South, South Carolina, Georgia, having that Southern accent, that's my prediction. If you have the capability, check out if there was a elderly gentleman, 55, 60 years old, who was in the LA or with the sheriff's department, LA cop or sheriff's department, who was from the South, who had an important high position role. He probably took the contract and took his team. Very few people can just start stabbing a woman, especially women. Straddling and stabbing someone, you either have to be insanely crazy or trained to turn off like that. Because it's very, 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 very hard to do for an average person. You don't click that way. It's hard for people in the military to shoot someone else up close and turn, because it affects you. It's very difficult. You have to be trained to get this way. Try to get an average girl to cut open a rabbit or something that you've killed. Oh, I've got the pigeons, or I've got the chicken. Gut it, honey. Remember, the girls that were with Charlie were average middle-class women. They weren't farm girls. They weren't used to cutting open and cleaning out stuff. But now all of a sudden they're triggered and they just sit and stab somebody. It's very difficult. Very difficult to turn on and turn off that way. You have to be trained. There must be where they're stabbing something first. That's why in the military, guys are running up with bayonets and putting it in and then running to the next to get you trained that you're ready to stab. All you can imagine is it's just this clump of burlap with some hay in it, and you're going up and stabbing it, running up, and it's a mannequin. Okay, that's what military does all the time. They train to kill like that. They grab and, just like a dog is trained to attack that guy. He's got big stuff on his arms, and he's like, and the dog runs up, and you can't just take a dog and go, okay, you go get him. First time out, it won't happen. Over and over training. That's why if you believe the storyline, then you're either retarded or you're just that gullible. I was that gullible until I was awakened. Until I read the affidavit saying, Charlie's this, Charlie's that. We're going to get them. We're okay. Because if I can get that against Charlie, Vincent can get him convicted of murder. The LaBianco, strange. A few days before, on the 5th, there was another guy who had supposedly ties with Charlie Manson, who said that was killed on his orders. Or he had political piggy written in blood on his carcass. Wait a second. For a longest time, there's no evidence, there's nothing to talk about. Well, wait. Less than a week before this, political piggy written in blood, and you have no ties of something? That should have been big bit in the police department, tracking that down. But to them, they're like, no, there's no ties with somebody having written political piggy, death to pigs, helter skelter, in blood. Written, those things can't tie together. It's like, yes, they can. They're like, no. Only the storyline matters. That is like the idea of the movie, Helter Skelter. You must go along with that, or you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist, well, I was naive until I saw the premise of those pictures. The warrant for the affidavit, then the signed affidavit, which then is a warrant to go into Spawn Ranch. After I read that, I started questioning. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't play out now. Especially those pictures. Those pictures were like sirens going, something's different. This is not what it seems. A guy doesn't do that to an old girlfriend who has the baby of someone else. He doesn't do that. That's his baby. She allows him to do that because she knows it's his baby. And poor Roman Polanski. Of course, later on, he's doing stuff and he has to leave, and you have Meryl Streep. He needs to come out. You just need to forget about it. His wife died. How about if he put the contract out to have his wife killed? Does that change anything about Roman Polanski? I'm not saying he did. I'm saying if he did put a contract out on her life plus the others, does that change anything? Because the pictures, the warrant, political piggy, all of these things change the argument. Also, Charlie being a porn director. Does that change anything? You decide. You go do your research. You have time off, most likely. A third of the world is locked down. Get off your butt, which you're probably... Check it out. Look up Sharon Tate's pregnancy pictures, those last ones. It's up to you. Let's see if you can come up with some new stuff. This is what they won't want you to do. Once we start doing this, all of this virus stuff will end.